If you got into a car accident, you're probably thinking about all your medical bills piling up. Who's going to pay for that? You're probably also thinking about all the time you missed at work. Who's going to pay for that? Also, you're thinking about all of the things that got affected just because of that car accident. Who's going to pay for all of that? Well, we'll talk about that in this video. Not just who's going to pay for that, but also how insurance companies and lawyers calculate how much your case is worth. Let's dive in. Hi there, my name is Catherine. I'm a lawyer and I think differently. Not knowing what happens next after your car accident can be very stressful and confusing, especially when it involves money. Don't be embarrassed talking about money. It's not about wanting quick money. It's about wanting what's right for you and your family after the craziness that happened from the car crash. You don't want your family to be left with a pile of medical bills or unpaid lost wages. It's just not fair. I completely understand where you're coming from. That's why people hire me as their lawyer, because they want to get their life back in order. I used to be a defense attorney, which means that I used to represent the people who were getting sued. But now I'm a plaintiff's attorney, so I represent the people who are injured like yourself. Because I know both sides, I know what the other side are looking for so that I can help my client get the best results that they deserve. Let's talk about who pays. Who pays for your medical bills, for your missed time at work, for your pain and suffering, and for anything else that got affected in your life because of your car accident? The short answer is the insurance company. There may be other people responsible, and we'll talk about that in my other videos, but to keep it simple here, the answer is the insurance company. Here's something they don't want you to know. Shh. In court at trial, lawyers are not allowed to mention insurance. They're not even allowed to mention that word. That's because it's the law. Hear lawyers talking about insurance companies paying for your medical bills or for your pain and suffering. That's because they cannot. Next, let's talk about how much your case is worth. It depends on two things. The first one is who was at fault for the accident. Lawyers call that liability. The second is how much are you injured. Lawyers call that damages. No lawyer can tell you how much you'll get in the end. That's because every person in accident is different. But that does not mean that you cannot help yourself. In fact, I'll tell you how you can get more money and get what you deserve. Let's talk about the first step. Who was at fault for the accident? If you were not at fault for the accident, it will help your case a lot, of course. If you were partly at fault, it might make your case difficult, but you may still have a case. You have to talk to a lawyer. As I mentioned in my other videos, lawyers offer free consultation. I offer free consultation. My lawyer friends offer free consultation. You just never know until you ask if you have a case or not. Go call a lawyer before you decide what to do with your case. The reason it's important to know who was at fault for the accident is because whoever caused the accident pays the money. That's the law. If the other driver is the only one who caused the accident, he or she will be the only one who will pay for what you deserve to get your life back in order, or let's say his insurance company. If the other driver is at fault and you're partly at fault, then how much the other driver will pay will depend on how much he caused the accident. For example, if the other driver is 75% at fault and you're 25% at fault, then the driver will only pay 75%. You might be asking yourself, who determines those percentages? That's where lawyers like me come into play. We argue the facts and law on your behalf to figure out who is at fault for the accident and what percentages each one is responsible for. But, and this is very important, it's not necessarily the driver who pays for it, as I explained earlier. It is his insurance company. The money does not come out of his bank account, or he doesn't pay it directly. What it is the money comes out from his insurance coverage. Let's talk about the second part, which is how injured were you from the car crash? This is the part where you can help yourself the most, so please pay attention. The law is this: the more serious injury you have, the more money you can recover. The less serious injury you have, the less money you can recover. That just sounds fair, right? The only way to figure out what your injuries are and how serious are your injuries is for you to go to see a doctor or a specialist. That's why after a car accident, you have to go to a doctor or an emergency room or an urgent care to make sure you're checked, even if you do not feel any pain. As I mentioned in my other videos, after a car accident, your body has a lot of adrenaline rush, and adrenaline makes it hard for you to feel pain. Even though you don't feel pain, it doesn't necessarily mean that you did not get injured. You might feel the pain a few hours later or even a few days later, so it's best to go see your doctor. Trying to figure out how injured you are also involves not missing your appointment. Go to all of your appointments with your doctor. That's because you have to tell your doctor exactly how you feel each time. The more that your doctor knows, the better he can treat you. Don't be a tough guy right now and say you're okay when you're not. Tell your doctor everything. Do not minimize your pain if you're actually feeling pain. One way you can help yourself is to make sure that you do not miss your doctor's appointment. I know you're probably thinking, well, I don't want to miss time from work, or I don't want to miss time from school. I understand it's such a hassle, and it is. But consider this. Remember how I used to be a defense attorney? One of the things that the other side will argue is, if you do not care to go to your doctor's appointment, then why should they care about paying you for what you deserve? Worse off, why should the jury care? So now you know why it's important for you to go to your doctor's appointment. You have to care about your health before others can care for you. Another way for you to help yourself is to seek the appropriate medical treatment. If your doctor or specialist recommends a medical treatment and you agree, make sure you follow through. Your health is your #1 priority. If you do not have health insurance, or your health insurance sucks and you can't get an appointment right away, talk to a lawyer. Your lawyer can help you find the best medical treatment for you and figure out how you can afford it. Remember, the 3 things you can do to regain control after a car accident and to help yourself are: go see a doctor immediately, do not miss your doctor's appointment, and follow your doctor's advice. We've only been talking about your physical injuries, which are your injuries to your body. But there are other injuries that you could have suffered as well from the car accident. That includes pain and suffering, or injuries to your mental health, lost time with your family, your inability to do the activities that you used to love and care. Those are much more complicated and difficult to quantify. So we'll talk about that in our next video. For now, just remember that you can get control on how to get your life back in order. That way, you will no longer feel confused and worried about the financial situation of your family. Instead, you're going to feel more confident and financially secure. If you learned something new from this video, please like, subscribe, and share. As you know, if you've been watching my other videos, my son created these for me in support of my YouTube videos. I kind of sat down on the like one, so it's kind of erased a little bit, but it still works. You get the idea, right? Please like, subscribe, and share. Now that you know what factors come into play in calculating how much your case is worth, if you want to know what happens next after you file a claim with an insurance company, you'd want to watch our next video regarding what happened next after you file a claim. It'll help you feel more in control, knowing what to expect in the coming months.